Welcome back, everyone. In this lecture, we're going to learn how to install the Solana command line interface on Mac. Candy Machine operates on the Solana blockchain, so you will need a wallet with funds if you want to create and deploy a Candy Machine to the Solana blockchain, because every transaction must be paid for. So to get a wallet, you have to have the Solana tool suite, which you can get with the Solana command line interface. So let's install the Solana command line interface, CLI, on Mac in this lecture. For that, we are going to use the following command. And remember, you can find all these commands to copy and paste in the source files for this section. So here we are using sh-c followed by a curl command. So we're using a curl command to install the Solana command line interface. This is from release.solana.com, the official release. We're using version 1.9.12 in this lecture. And we're using /install. This is an install tool created by Solana. There are other options like building from the source as well. This is the simplest option. Here we are using an installer to get Solana. You should see a message that you've been able to install. In my case, I see that install is up to date. Because I have no updates, I already have Solana installed. You'll also get this message about a path. It says here, adding export path to users/my username for the computer and then .bash profile. Close and reopen your terminal to apply the path changes or run the following in your existing shell. So what is this message? This message means that your Solana installer assumes that you're using a bash shell. So this is just what the Solana installer is doing at this time. So if you are using a bash shell, which is an older version of Mac's shell, then you can follow these terms, close and reopen your terminal, or run the following in your existing shell. Then you could check if you have Solana installed by using the command Solana. But if you're not using a bash shell, then if you follow these instructions and then you try to use Solana in a new terminal, it won't work. That's because likely if you're using a newer Mac, you have the Z shell. So how do we handle the Z shell, which is likely what most of you have? Well, if you do follow these commands of exporting the path, this means you can only access Solana as a temporary environment variable, which means you'll only be able to use the command Solana in this terminal. If you close the terminal and reopen it, you'll no longer have access to Solana. You'll have to export the environment variable again. You'll have to just type this command again, like that. All right, so currently, if I follow their commands and hit enter, I can now use Solana. Okay, if I type in Solana, I see a whole bunch of prompts suggesting me what I can do with Solana. Okay, and this is because we're now accessing Solana via the Solana command line interface. So the command Solana is accessing the command line interface. You can also check, for example, the version of Solana that you have. This is using the Solana command line interface and checking the version. But if you create a new terminal, so here I've created a new terminal window and then I'm accessing Solana again, or I'm trying to access Solana again. Okay, it works for me because I already have it installed, but for you, likely you won't have it available. You'll see command not found. And you'll likely see that if you're especially on a Z shell. So if at the top of your terminal you see ZSH, that means you have a Z shell. So what do we do if you have a Z shell or if you cannot access Solana outside of the current terminal? Well, as I mentioned, one solution is just to export Solana as a path variable every time you open a new terminal. This is going to allow you to access Solana as a temporary environment variable in that terminal window only. But this gets tedious, as you can imagine, having to copy one line every single time you open a new terminal. So instead, the solution is to add Solana to your environment variables and make it a permanent environment variable. When you call this line export path, this means you are adding Solana to your environment variables, but you're only adding it temporarily. So you can only use Solana in this window. If you want it to be permanent across all terminals, you have to add the Solana path, which is what this is, the Solana path, the path to Solana on your computer. You have to add it as a permanent environment variable, which means you can use the keyword Solana to access that path, that location. So how do we do that? How do we add Solana permanently to our Mac? For that, we have to manually add the Solana path to our Z shell path variables or environment variables. So for that, we are going to use Vim with the command vi. Then we're going to access .zshrc. We're going to open up our Z shell environment variables. So type in this command and hit enter. Then you'll likely see some lines of code, or maybe this is empty for you, but likely you'll see some lines. This is a list of all of your environment variables for your Z shell. So you'll notice here I have one for Homebrew, and I have one for Google Cloud, I have one for my bin, one for Python, another one for Python, and then I also have one that I added myself for Solana. So you have to add this yourself, this line right here. You have to export a path variable to the Solana command line interface. So likely your line that you should add should look almost exactly like this, just with your own username for your root computer, your root admin. If you're not sure what to put in here, then you have to use what Solana recommended you. Right? So you want to type this in, and then you can exit out, and then you'll be able to then access Solana via that keyword. Right? So you just have to paste in or type in this line. Just add in the content anywhere in this list, typically at the end. And then hit escape, hit the escape key. That way you can then save the file. So you hit escape and then you hit shift and Z twice. That will save the file and then close the terminal. So if I try to type in shift ZZ currently as is, then it won't let me because I am still pasting in something. Okay, so if I go back here and then I go to the end and I try to type something in, okay, let's see here. If when you are inside of this list of path variables, you can't add anything, then hit the I key. This is going to be putting you in insert mode. So here I am in insert mode. You can see insert at the bottom left of the terminal. Note that you can't use your mouse. You can only use your keyboard, your arrow keys and the enter key to move around. Okay, then you can paste in your line. Okay, and then if you want to exit, you have to hit the escape key. That will remove the insert mode, and then you can hit shift and Z twice. That is the command to save and quit. So once you've completed that, you will have added Solana as a permanent environment variable to the Z shell. So now, if you open a new terminal, you can use the keyword Solana. And in the same terminal, same thing, you can use the keyword Solana. If you still can't see Solana, try quitting the terminal and reopening it. If you still don't see the Solana, if you still can't use it, then just make sure you put in the correct path. You should have this path, but just with your computer name. Remember, hit Shift ZZ to exit. And if you're not sure what the path link should be, well, then it actually appeared for you when you tried to install Solana, or when you did install Solana. Remember, when we first installed Solana, it told us that we have to close and reopen the terminal to apply path changes or run the following. So this run the following, that is what you have to copy. And then you have to paste it into that Z shell list of environment variables. That way it's a permanent environment variable. If you just run this, it's a temporary environment variable only. So that is how you can install Solana. So if you see a success message when you use Solana or Solana version, this means you have Solana installed. So congratulations, you can now use the Solana command line interface to interact with the blockchain. So that is how you can install Solana on Mac. If you liked this video, then go to training.mammoethinteractive.com. We have tons more content on blockchain, web development, machine learning, and much more. We also have a membership for just $19 a month where you can get access to our 372 course bundle and counting.